Hannah and I are getting married.
Really?
Yeah.
No,
Next year.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, we're pretty happy about it. We're excited to finally lock it down.
Yep.
Have you got a good job?
Yes, I'm an actor.
He's an actor, Grandma. He's an actor on Broadway, so not
Well,
just...
here's what I have to say about being married.
Okay.
Someday you will look at him, hating him with every fiber of your being, wishing that he would die the most violent death possible. It will pass.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Boys Watching Girls. We are just two boys watching HBO's Girls. We are your hosts. I am Joe Welke.
I am Vance Tucker. I'm going last name this time.
Wow, last name. All right. Just fucking not worried about anything these days. Vance Tucker. All right. So today we are talking about Season 3, Episode 9. Overall, this is Episode 29. This episode is titled Flow. It was directed by Richard Shepard and written by Bruce Eric Kaplan. The original air date was March 2nd, 2014, to an audience of 801,000 viewers, 0.801 million. Initial thoughts on this one? On Flow? Our predictions were dead wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm happy they were. It would. Yeah. I thought it was pretty lowbrow, our prediction for what this would be about. You know.
Yeah.
Just based off of it, except for it could have been Flow from Progressive.
Yeah, it might have been. I mean, you never know.
No, the thing I'll say is I enjoyed this episode, and it didn't fall into any of the traps that I expected it to. Even when it was starting to fall into those traps in the episode.
Yeah,
like this whole season, they've like subverted expectations in like a really, really smart way.
Yeah, I enjoyed this episode. It didn't like blow my mind or anything, but it was well written, well acted. Everything made sense. Like, it's a good one.
Yeah,
dude. Season 3 is the shit, dude. Like, this season's a good season.
Yeah, I'll still say season 1 might be up there for me just because of the newness of everything and the way it works. Like, maybe this season is a little too muted than it needs to be. You know, maybe it's like maybe an overcorrection of the end of season 2.
That could be true,
but I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, I like this episode. It's a Hannah. It's an all Hannah all the time episode, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And yeah, shall we get into this?
Yeah.
All right. The episode starts with Hannah walking down the street eating a salad. Gets a phone call from her mom. Mom says Grandma's dying. She broke her, what is it, femur?
Yeah.
Dude, the femur, I heard, is like the most painful thing to break.
When she says, oh, like, because she talks about, the mom says, she's like, oh, I thought she just broke her femur. Like, broke your femur is not a thing. Like, it's the longest, strongest bone in your body, and breaking it is awful. The athletic trainer when I played football in high school, not a big football school either, but she said the loudest sound she ever heard on the football field was some kid breaking his femur, and I'm sure that was like brutal. So I'm thinking this is old grandma breaking her femur. Like, if you break your hip, that's like a death sentence for like older people usually. So femur's not a...
I knew a girl who got into like an ATV accident who broke her femur, and she like couldn't walk for almost a year because it's just such a fucking bitch to recover from.
Yeah.
So Hannah's like, oh, I thought that she only broke her femur. Why is she dying? Not only does she have a broken femur, she has pneumonia as well. Mm-hmm. That's the death sentence right there. It's like, oh, and she also has AIDS and also cancer. It's like, fucking, what more can you load up on this poor lady?
Yeah, broken femur and pneumonia, probably on set because of it doesn't bode well.
Yeah. So the mom's like, if you care about your grandmother, you'll be here soon. And Hannah's like, I mean, I care. Like, you're just dropping this news on me. Which I thought was a little unfair, but like, I understand why it happened. Like, my grandma died earlier this year, and it was like, I had to get a plane ticket like ASAP to get back and like to do the funeral stuff. But yeah, like that news is always shocking.
Yeah. My grandparents died. I forget, like maybe I was in like high school or so. But yeah, it's just I would lived in the same city as them at the time, so I didn't have to worry about traveling back or doing anything. And I wasn't sure where her grandmother lived. I didn't know if she had to go back to Michigan or not. Like, fortunately, it was in New York. Upstate,
I didn't know either.
York,
yeah, everybody's like taking a train, and like Adam later on, he just like rides a motorcycle.
Yeah, and I was like, where are they?
Yeah, because I thought they were in Michigan.
Yeah.
But I suppose not.
Yep.
So that's the opening to the episode. Hannah's got to go back to the hospital where her grandma is. We don't know. I guess we'll just say upstate New York.
Yeah.
For the purposes of this episode. So she gets back, and her Aunt Margot, is that her name?
Yep. Yeah.
She catches up with Aunt Margot at the hospital, and Aunt Margot's like this high-strung, like, she's a very aggressive, abrasive woman. It seems like that's her characterization in my estimation. She cusses a lot. She smokes. She's stressed about everything, and Hannah shows up, and Margot's like, "Don't fucking cry. Don't make a big deal out of this. She just wants to see you before you die." And like, it's like so fucking crazy. And like, and Hannah's like, okay, all right. That's all right. So they go into the hospital room with the grandma, and the grandma is in like very, very good spirits for having a broken femur and pneumonia.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like, she's lived her life. She knows, like, she doesn't like that she's in there, and she thinks the room smells bad, and like she's the one that like it's, peeing bedpan or whatever, like that kind of thing. But what is she gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's just like, whenever people say that they hate going to the dentist, but now I've gone to the dentist and I've had so many like teeth problems so much that I'm like, I just give in to the getting fucked by the dentist. Like, it's not even like, oh no, I don't want to do it. I just close my eyes and I'm like, all right, in about an hour and a half, this will be over.
Yeah.
Just sucks. And that's all of old people's lives.
And eventually
that's their
it's
entire
over for
life.
good.
Yeah, and then they're like, all right, I guess this is it. The big crescendo.
Yeah, I mean, they could have characterized the grandmother, and they seemed like they were going to try to do that in the episode, make her seem like she was really a super mean person throughout. And
yeah, I didn't understand
Yeah.
what was going on, because like she seemed like a sweetheart when Hannah was talking to her.
And then the aunts later are talking about how it's like, oh, she ruined everything, and she's not that mean, and she always made fun of Hannah. And then you see her with Hannah, and she says a line that you think, we'll get into it, but it's like that thing where people talk about someone the way they are, and then the way we see them doesn't match what people are saying about them.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't sure where they were going to go with it. And I'm happy they went the way they did, because they could have made her just like an evil grandmother. She says a bunch of like mean racist stuff on her deathbed, and you're like, oh, I guess she wasn't so nice, but that's the low hanging fruit.
Well, it's like, it's all with all families though, like, to your face, people are nice. And then once you're gone, they'll like talk shit about you behind your back.
Yeah.
Not even like the harshest. Well, sometimes it's pretty harsh shit, but anyway, so the grandma, Hannah seems like she's a real sweetie. The grandma seems like she's a real sweetie. And then the aunts show up. So it's Aunt Margot, it is Hannah's mom, and then her Aunt Sissy.
Yep.
And they all come in, and then I was like, oh, this is like a reimagining of the Showgirls. So it's 4 women. Lena Dunham's the main star, and then like now it's these old women.
Yeah. So it's better than just it's not just like her and one other person, or her and the grandmother the whole episode. You got this, you're cutting away from some stuff, so it's like not full those full episodes where it's just one situation.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So all the aunts show up, and they immediately get into like some family squabbling drama shit going on, and then they're like bickering about something, and then somebody was saying that Hannah needs to take her mom out to eat, and Hannah's like, oh, she can just eat whatever's in the tray, and they're like, no, take your mom out. She's been here, she needs to eat.
Yeah.
So they go out to get something to eat. And this is where Hannah's mom basically drops the bomb that the grandma was like a kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And like ruined their lives. And Hannah's like, I don't understand why you're saying that. Like, she's always been really nice to me. And then the mom is like, well, she ruined Sissy's life, and she ruined Margot's life. And like, luckily I got out, and all, like, she was always so mean to us. And she's like kind of rude about you. And then Hannah's like, I don't understand what's going on. And then the mom does this thing where she's like, hey, could you do me a favor before grandma dies? And Hannah's like, yeah, absolutely. Whatever you want. And then the mom's like, could you tell grandma that you and Adam are getting married? Because she just wants like some happiness for one of the grandkids. And that would make her really happy if you were getting married. And Hannah's like, absolutely not. That is so bizarre. And why would you ask me to lie to our grandmother? She's like, because it'll make her happy before she dies. And it doesn't matter. She's going to die anyway. So it's not like she's going to be at the wedding. Yeah. So just lie to her. And Hannah's like, no, I'm not doing that. Can I eat the rest of your sandwich?
And I was like, yeah, that's great. I was like, that's the right. I mean, it's one thing that doing it and not doing it doesn't really matter. But I'm okay with Hannah being like, no, I don't want to do it. And then that being it, which I knew it wouldn't be it, because that's the whole setup for the show. But where they go with it is interesting, I think, at least. Yeah.
I like, that was always like my grandmother's, like both of my grandmother's things, is that they wanted me and my sister to, find a good person to settle down with. And like, all right. That's just like what's super important to grandmas for some reason.
Yeah, just like, who knows what, like, it's like, I don't know. It's that whole thing about like dying easy, like if that happens for you, then they can just go and know everything will be fine the rest of the world. Like, yeah, like, no, like, no, especially at the age she's at. Like, I guess in the grandma's age at 25, you're kind of starting to settle down at least, but
yeah. Still early. Well, yeah, me and my sister got it pretty hard from our grandmother, because my sister's 33 and I'm 30, and it's like, when are you gonna fucking find somebody? It's like, oh boy, grandma. Yeah. Luckily, we had a cousin that got married, and he had 2 kids before my grandma died, so we kind of like, she got a little taste of that from that side of the family. But like me and my sister, no bueno.
When you have kids, all you care about is if those kids have kids with other people's kids.
Right? Are you fucking my kid? I want my kid to fuck. Yeah. And I want proof of that fucking in the form of a human being.
I need the receipt.
Yeah. Yeah. But Hannah, it seems like she's of the mindset of like, I want to get married eventually, but like right now I'm like trying to get my life together, which is absolutely right.
Yeah. If if her and Adam got married in 2 years from now, if they stuck it through, and he's like a somewhat working on stage actor, and she's like somewhat stable with maybe a book deal or a book option and still working at GQ, like they're in both like career trajectories where you're like, okay, getting married is a thing.
That makes sense. Yeah. But like if you're 24 barely making rent, you've been dating the guy for like a couple months, he never really had a job aside from this Broadway thing, which he's not even really interested in, like that's a risky proposition, you know? You got to have some stability, I guess, you know? But I mean, also love is love, Vance.
Yeah. I mean, that love is still going to be there whether or not they sign a legal document.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah.
So after that conversation, they head on back to, I don't know whose home it is. Is it Margot or Margot's house?
Yeah,
or it's the grandma's house. Because this is where they start labeling things with Post-it notes of like what they want to take when the grandma dies. So I'm guessing it's the grandma's house.
Maybe it's the grandma's house. Yeah. There's no
And
real
I guess,
establishing. I wasn't even sure where we were in the country.
Yeah.
So
that's true. I
Yeah.
think it's
But
the
yeah, you might be
grandma's
right.
house, and Sissy lives there with the grandma because Sissy's talking about how like she always gave her the drugs and everything, and she didn't have a house.
Yeah, because they're divvying out the pills, and it's like so. At first, I was like, "Are they divvying out the pills for? They're divvying them out for each other to have, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah,
They were
yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is fucked up, man.
one Percocet for you, one Percocet for me.
Yeah, but before all this like divvying up stuff, we get a scene where Hannah goes in, and we meet her cousin Rebecca, who is Margot's daughter.
Right before we meet that, when they're getting out of the car and walking into the house, Margot talks to Hannah's mom, whose name I'm drawing a blank on.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Hannah's mom. She's talking to her about when Hannah was like younger and she was like 7, and she told Rebecca that her dad was busted for insider trading and that she would never see him again.
Yeah.
And like, so
Hannah was 7 and Rebecca was 6.
Yeah.
They said. And she was giving Hannah shit about that, being like, well, I can't believe you just told her that. It's like, well, he was busted for insider trading and she did never see him again.
Yeah.
It's like, I wasn't wrong.
It's like, and I can see now why Margot would be pissed at her sister Hannah's mom for telling a 7-year-old that, who then told it to her daughter.
Yeah.
At a time they like, maybe you want to finesse it, you know, a little bit. Maybe saying, "Oh, insider trading" is one thing, but saying, "Oh, you'll never see him again" is
that's bad,
mean and spiteful.
Well, Hannah's reaction, which I also found to be kind of, it made sense because she was like, "Well, if I was 7, why did you tell me? Like, why are you getting so upset that I told a 6-year-old? I was 7, you told me." And then the parents were like, "Well, you were just curious and you wouldn't let it go."
Well, that's Hannah's mom saying why she told her, but like Margot shouldn't. That's not on Margot.
Yeah,
like Margot didn't tell Hannah. It wasn't like Margot told Hannah and then she told Rebecca. It's Hannah's mom told it to her daughter. Like if you told your sister something, right?
Yeah,
about something about your kid. And then she went and told her kid about it, and they told that kid. You'd be like, why did you tell your kid?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's also like, I could totally see a 7-year-old doing something like that, too.
Oh, absolutely. That's why you don't tell a 7-year-old that, especially if you know that 7-year-old is
a very precocious child.
Yeah. Who will use that as a weapon.
Yeah. I don't know. I just found it weird that like they wouldn't have forgiven her by now about that.
I feel like that's no, I mean, yeah, they could have, but that seems like a family thing that just always sticks with it. I think it's like that compared with a bunch of stuff. Like when you pile that on to other stuff, that's when it's yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So after that, Margot was like, "Oh, Sissy, you've been quiet this whole ride to the car. What's up with you?" And Sissy was like, "I was praying." And then Margot's like, "Oh, brother," and starts smoking a cigarette. So then this is where we meet Rebecca, who is studying to go to med school, or she is in med school and she's trying to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. And Hannah sits down and she's like, "Hey, what's up, Rebecca? How's it going?" And she tries to have, Rebecca's like, "Hey, it's going well. How are you?" And then Hannah says like something like, "Oh, just getting back from Grandma Flo job. You know, she's killing it." And Rebecca's like, "I don't think that's a very funny nickname that you give our grandma." And Hannah's like, "Well, okay, all right. I mean, I thought it was pretty funny, but So Hannah's trying to have like bonding moments and like banter with Rebecca, and Rebecca's just like shooting her down so hard. She's like, I got to study. Like, I'm studying for med school. It's like really important. And Hannah's trying to be like, well, yeah, it is really important. And I hope that you do well in it because then I can text you about like all my medical problems, like a joke. And Rebecca's like, I'm not studying so hard to have you text me about all your fucking medical problems. And Hannah's like, okay.
Well, she's got that giant book, Grey's Anatomy, which is a perfect time for me to plug a guest appearance I did on a podcast where I wrote for the Terrific Specs podcast. We'll put it in the show notes, but I wrote a little spec script for Grey's Anatomy without ever seeing it. And
I was gonna say, isn't the point of the show like you've never watched Grey's Anatomy, so
never
you just
seen
write
a single episode of Grey's Anatomy? And I will say it's a really funny episode. It really turned out well. But yeah, check it out. But yeah, I didn't even realize Grey's Anatomy was a real thing when I saw that book.
Oh yeah, it's a real medical book.
Yeah, but it's spelled with the E on the show, I believe. On this, it was an A. I don't know if that's just an English versus European spelling.
I think the main character of Grey's Anatomy's last name is Grey with an E. I could be wrong.
That much I know. No, that much I do know.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. We're not idiots.
Yeah. I didn't know that they were referencing another book of medical journalism.
Yeah.
So
Rebecca's like, hey, I'm going to go to I can't study here. Like, it's too chaotic. I got to go to a Starbucks. And Hannah's like, oh, yeah, because Starbucks is known for being a very calm and quiet place. That's a good plan, which I completely agree with. I never understood people that like try to write or study in coffee shops.
It's because the background noise drifts in. Like, there's apps that you can have that will like filter in like people chattering, and like it's like listening to music while you work with something. Just is background, and it's not just that ominous silence. But I do think Starbucks in this, or any coffee shop, would be better than being around the drug dealing aunts and Hannah right now. Like, honestly, I'd work out of my car instead of being in that house at that moment.
Yeah, there are like and I listen to them, like YouTube videos are like 10 hours of quiet chatter, or like coffee house jams and stuff, and it's like quiet chatter, and then also like people like soft lo-fi jazz beats or something like that. Yeah. I see so many of those videos. Like, I always have the rain one. There's one that's like 10 hours of rain that helps me like go to sleep and shit. But yeah, so Rebecca and Hannah are very much not getting along. And then Rebecca is like, hey, do you want to get like a drink later? And Hannah's like, do you want to get a drink with me later? Because it doesn't seem like you do. Yeah. You are acting very much like you don't want to do that. And Rebecca's like, yeah, let's get a drink. Okay, we'll get a drink together. Let's do it. And Hannah's like, okay, we'll do it if you want to do it. She's like, I want to fucking do it. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, all right, well, we'll get a drink later.
I was like, this is the most begrudging
right?
invite for a drink.
Yeah. And then after this is when we get the aunts divvying up stuff, the drugs, her valuables. And this is where we get into a fight where Sissy's like, I don't even really want anything. I only want one thing, and it's her engagement ring. And this is a sore spot for the other two, Margot and Hannah's mom, because they're like, why do you want the engagement ring? We have daughters that will be potentially using that ring as an engagement ring. And Sissy's like, look, I don't have any daughters. I don't even have a house. Like, I just want the ring. You guys can have whatever you want.
Well, she says she'll give the ring once one of the daughters gets engaged too. Like, she's not saying she'll hold it indefinitely. Which I'm like, what is the point then?
Yeah.
Like, I've never fully gotten the like family heirloom. Like, sometimes things are things to me, you know.
Well,
like,
that's because you're Vance love nothing.
But I'm like, so the guy, like, so Adam's getting married to Hannah, and now he has to like give her grandmother's ring as the engagement ring.
Yeah, like, that's the part that I never I never understood that.
Like, how does he now have a legacy of his own of a ring that gets passed down. It's like,
Yeah.
oh no, this is your mom's grandma's ring that I gave her that you will one day give to your. Yeah. You know, like
how does he propose? Like he just proposes with like an empty box and it's like, the ring that, or maybe
he
it's
has
like,
to go ask.
he has to the mom,
the dad
for the ring,
or the mom, however that works, like.
Well, isn't the tradition thing you ask the parents or tell them, or you ask like, hey, is it okay if I propose to your daughter? And then usually they're like, all right, that's cool. Yeah. And then you do it. Yeah. Did you do that?
I did not do that. It might be a little bit of a sticking point, but I did not ask for
Is it a sticking point, really?
Not really a sticking point, but I think her dad was like kind of wanted to, because I think he had a line that he wanted to say that his father-in-law said to him or something, like some like I forget exactly, but it's something like, well, that's your problem now, like something dumb like that.
Yeah, some kind of dad joke type of thing. That's hilarious. He's like, you motherfucker, you robbed me of my joke.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. We got married in the courthouse in Beverly Hills, like, so it's not like, I don't know.
Yeah, that was so bizarre when you. I need to tell that story about like how I found out you were getting married. Because like I knew you and your wife, you were like dating for forever, and I had just moved to LA, or I was visiting LA. I think it was I just moved to LA.
You've been here a couple months, maybe, not too long.
Yeah. I was kind of new still, and you were like, hey, you want to get dinner at this place? One of our other friends from New York was there.
No, I don't think I was in charge of arranging our meetup at all. I think that was all my wife and her friend. Yeah. Our mutual friend that we know. So like, she was in town for the wedding. And then
I think
we all knew each other. So they all like said, oh, let's invite Joe.
Yeah. It was like, oh, Joe's here now. Our mutual friend was there and was like, let's all meet up and get dinner together. And I was like, okay, it'll be like old times when we used to watch football together. Mm-hmm. And then so I get to the restaurant and we're all just like talking and chatting, catching up. And then I think it was you were like, hey, just so you know, this is kind of like our rehearsal dinner, I guess. We're getting married tomorrow.
Again, I was like, what? Again, I really don't believe that was me saying it, because I thought you knew the whole time.
I had no idea.
Because they had been texting with you the whole time. Like, I'd been out of the text loop, I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, they obviously have told. I didn't know why you thought my wife's friend was in town. I thought that would be the whole impetus. Like,
I thought that she was just visiting.
Yeah,
I thought that she was just visiting, and I was like, okay, let's hang out.
No, I thought she would be like, oh, I'm in town to be the witness at this wedding. Like, that's it.
Well, yeah. Then
so I thought you knew the whole
It must have been, it must have been your wife that was like, hey, this is kind of our rehearsal dinner. We're getting married tomorrow. And I was like, what? That's awesome. But like, this is fucking such a weird surprise.
I remember
was like, now I feel like I should have brought a gift or something.
Like, you guys didn't tell him? Like, it's so weird for you. I felt so awkward for you. I wasn't even thinking of it as a rehearsal dinner either.
I didn't. I mean, it was just like, oh, congratulations. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I feel weird now. I feel like I should have brought a gift or something.
I think I would have ordered something different if I was. But anyway.
Yeah. So after they're all kind of squabbling about the ring and what things they want, which is like, I feel like that's such a vulturous thing to be doing.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it so much. It's like all you're thinking about is what you're going to get when this person dies. It's so awful.
It's so weird. And and they're like, let's get the Post-it notes. And you put a Post-it note over what you want. And it's like, is this like, it just felt so
dirty,
weird. And
do you have to rush back home when she gets better to take the Post-it notes off everything? You're like racing her. Get the Post-it notes.
Look, I called dibs on your plates. I'm sorry, Mom.
You know what? Also, this scene made me think that the mom was using Hannah's relationship with Adam as a way to pry the ring away from them. You know, I thought it was a little devious, like, hey, tell him you're getting married so we can get the ring. Like, I don't care if it is or not.
I thought the same thing too, because when Sissy's like, I want the ring, the mom is like, you don't even have any daughters. Like, my daughter has a boyfriend. And it's like when Rebecca, she's in med school, she's not getting married anytime soon.
Yeah.
So it did seem kind of like a devious ploy to like get this ring.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, maybe the mom is like playing a tough game because she's like telling Hannah how awful the grandma is. The sisters don't seem to like Hannah's mom around. I was like, maybe Hannah's mom isn't this,
Also, I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but the name of this episode is Flo, and the grandma's name is Flo.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to
okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know if we mentioned that. The grandma's name is Flo.
Half an hour into the podcast. Well, we said flow job. We did the reference of the
we
flow
did
job.
say flow job, but that was 20 minutes into the podcast.
Oh man,
dude, we're bad podcasters.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the scene where this is a scene that I hated and then enjoyed at the end of.
Yes.
Hannah calls Adam, and he's taking a break from, or does he call her? Or I forget exactly. But
I think they're just, I don't know if who calls who, but they're on the phone. And he's like, is your mom okay? Like he's being very concerned boyfriend, which is awesome. Yeah. I love seeing good boyfriend Adam.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about before she left and he said he couldn't go, but he was going to miss her. Like he was being human Adam. Like,
he's being a person that you're like, I can see this as a person in real life.
Yeah, and being responsible to not duck out of the first week of rehearsals.
Yeah, he's like, I wish I could go, but I got rehearsals for this play, which would be like really set a bad precedent. Yeah. So anyway, he's on the phone with Hannah, and it's during a break during his rehearsal. Mm-hmm. And this is where Hannah talks about the lie that the mom wants her to tell the grandma. Yeah. Yeah. It was when she says, my mom thinks we should tell a lot of my grandma and say we're getting married. And he's like, oh, what? That's crazy. And she's like, yeah, it is. But it's not really a full lie. And then she's starting to go into like that Hannah mode. And I'm like, oh, no. Yeah. And he's like, well, do you want to get married? She's like, no, it's not something. But I want to know if you're taking this serious. I'm like, how much more serious could he be besides like proposing? You know, I know you live together.
Yeah. Like he has run across the city for you. Like, yeah, he's been nothing but committed to you.
And that's basically what he said. Yeah. He's like, I've been nothing but committed. She's like, I'm kind of like questioning your commitment if you're a little dodgy about this marriage thing. And it's like, Hannah, you didn't want to do the lie.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was like, I was like, is this just like that forced drama stuff? And they save it because at the end of the conversation, she goes, I need to go now because I never really thought about having this conversation. And I have no idea why it's making me so upset right now. And I thought that was more realistic of her having the feelings, but acknowledging that the feelings logically the feelings shouldn't be there. Like you could feel something, but then if you logically step back, it's like, what am I doing? Like, I'm about to ruin this situation that's great because of something that is now planted in my head like this. It was like it was like the whole like he got hired for Broadway acting, and then everyone was telling her how awful he'll be once he gets in the show. And she started to have a little panic, but then they talked and they kind of got over it. Like it didn't blow over like it would have done in season 1 or 2, you know?
Yes.
So that's why I thought it was good that they had the scene, but they still dealt with it in a real way.
I think her vocalizing her irrationalness and just being like, look, I know that this isn't a conversation that we should be having right now. And I totally understand where you're coming from with this. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I just feel weird and I'm going to go.
Yeah. And then I felt awful for Adam because that's the mentality he goes into as he goes back to auditioning.
Yeah. He's like, you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach. And he's like, dude, the whole time he's on the phone too, he's like playing with a plant, which I thought was fucking hilarious. Yeah. And then after they hang up, he just like punches the plant. He's like, fuck.
Like it's just like one of those things. It's like, oh, the day was going great. Like now I have to deal with stuff that isn't real stuff for no reason, and now I have to pretend to be someone else. It's just like, oh, couldn't this have happened like afterward? You know, like
Hannah has the timing of like something important's happening, and then just unload a lot of drama onto it.
And don't worry about
God
it.
Damn it.
Unload the drama and be like, oh, it's nothing. And you're like, of course it's something. It's already said. It's out there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next thing is Hannah and Rebecca at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
And Hannah's getting a drink, and she's like, oh, Rebecca, what do you want to drink? And Rebecca's like, oh, I don't drink during the weekdays. And Hannah's like, then why did you fucking invite me to a bar?
Yeah.
And Rebecca says something like, well, I guess that's just kind of what I figured you people like you would want to do, like go out and drink. And Hannah's like, dude, what the fuck is your problem? This is where like the gloves come off, and I feel like Hannah really handled this well in this scene. She's like, look, you don't like me. You don't need to like act like we're cool. Don't invite me out to drink though. Like if you don't want to do it. And Rebecca says some kind of confession about how she doesn't have any friends because she's constantly studying, but she does have a boyfriend. And Hannah's like, oh, okay, cool. And she's like, yeah, his name is Dave, right? Dave?
I didn't even pay attention. Yep.
It was something like that. And Hannah's like, wow, really sexy name. Because now they're just like being really passive aggressive and like rude to each other. And she's like, yeah, but we only see each other on Wednesdays. And Hannah's like, well, that kind of sucks, doesn't it? And she's like, no, he's got his other girlfriends, which is fine. And Hannah's like, that's horrible.
Yeah.
She's like, no, it actually works out really well because, you know, I can only see him one day a week and like he has needs. And Hannah is just like, this is terrible.
Yeah. And she's like, he's better than my other boyfriend because he was a writer and writers are terrible people. So she's like doubling down on the Hannah hate.
Yeah. She's like, writers make everything about themselves and they're just narcissistic people. And Hannah's just like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah. And is this the point where she tells Hannah that she never found her stuff funny? Or was that the earlier scene?
No, this is right when that happens because she says something about like, I forget who says it to who first.
Yeah.
But it's like Hannah says that she doesn't think Rebecca... Oh, Hannah says that the grandma said that Rebecca doesn't have a good sense of humor.
And that she was easy or something, too.
No. Hannah says that the grandma said that Rebecca doesn't have a good sense of humor.
Gotcha, yeah.
And then Rebecca's like, what are you talking about? You don't have a good sense of humor. You're not funny. And Hannah's like, are you serious? I'm very funny.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, everything that I've read of yours that you've sent me is so not funny. And Hannah's like, I only sent you the stuff that isn't funny because I knew you wouldn't get the stuff that is funny because you're some kind of fucking Martian and you don't understand humor.
Well, I did like Rebecca's response. Like, what does me not being funny have to do with not finding what you wrote funny? You know?
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, you don't have to be a comedian to understand like comedy, like that kind of reference, which I kind of thought was a funny little comeback to that.
And this is where Rebecca says, well, grandma always said that you were like loose. Yeah. Like kind of a, I guess like a skank around town or something.
And this is where we double down on the whole, is this grandma nice or not thing.
I think that grandma's nice, but you know, families talk.
Yeah. But everybody's saying the stuff that the grandma said that was mean. You know what I mean? Like Rebecca's saying stuff that she said. And yeah, I mean, I don't think they don't make it that way, but they're setting the seeds for us, the audience, to think that the grandma is super mean or that there's going to be some type of twist too. And I'm okay with it not being there, but it was interesting how many times it came up.
Yeah, like if I found out that my grandma said something about me that was like, oh, Joey is like, fucking, he's a loser or something, like he needs to get a real job instead of just like trying to be a comedian or something.
Are you quoting her or are you?
No, I'm saying if I found out she said that, I wouldn't be surprised and I wouldn't be like, wow, grandma's a real piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'd be like, that's
I'm not
what grandma's
expecting Hannah
do.
to feel that way either, but
so,
it's just interesting everyone's saying that stuff.
Yeah.
And we'd be... were you about to move on or dive into this?
No. What were you about to say?
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Hannah mentioning like, oh, I wish we were the type of cousins that slept in the same bed together or hung out and like made fun of grandma together and got molested by the same person.
Yeah.
You know? And I was just like, all right, I guess that's cool.
Yeah, dude. No.
I get the joke there. I get kind of
That's like very, very dark.
Yeah.
That's insanely dark.
And we always talk about this where we haven't dove into Lena Dunham's history yet.
Yeah.
At some point.
Well, we're about to have to.
One of these seasons, we're going to have to. Because they talk about something in the car that.
Yeah. In the car ride from the bar.
Yeah.
Rebecca's texting or something.
Yeah.
And Hannah's getting pissed that she's texting while driving. She's like, you're a doctor. You should know how dangerous this is. You shouldn't be doing this. And it's because grandma is not doing well. Rebecca got a text message that said that like the grandma's got a fever and it's looking bad for her.
Yeah.
And Hannah's like, well, put your phone away. You don't want to die on top of grandma dying too, you know?
Yeah.
And she's like, don't worry. I can fucking text and drive. And this is where Rebecca brings up the fact that when they were 7, Hannah said she made Rebecca play with her coochie.
Her tchotchke.
Her tchotchke or whatever, which is her vagina, with Hannah. And Hannah's like, I never fucking did that. And then Rebecca like goes into great detail about like, this is exactly what you did. You said, look at this thing I learned how to do. You have to do it too. And then I guess they were both like masturbating together or something.
Or at least, yeah.
And it's so uncomfortable because I think that this is kind of similar to what Lena Dunham wrote about in her book that she did with her cousin.
Yeah. That's why I was like, oh, okay. I think maybe into this season, we might have to like dive into
we might
that
have
stuff.
to actually look, because again, this is all alleged and I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly the whole story and I don't want to like put words in anybody's mouth, but I distinctly remember hearing a story about Lena Dunham in real life may have done something like this with her cousin.
Yeah. Something that I think she wrote about herself too. Like, so it's not like an expose or anything. But we will check into this. The only reason we never dove into it was because we didn't want whatever we read to taint or filter
cloud
our judgment of the show itself when we first started diving in. Like, we didn't want to come in with any preconceived or prejudgments of the show itself. You know, but now that we're this deep in, I think
and now that it's like specifically been stated on the show that
like multiple times,
something kind of similar happened in the show, and like I guess supposedly in real life. I think now would be like a good research time to find out what actually happened before we start talking out of school and being like, oh yeah, this is what fucking happened, you know, because we don't know.
So we never do this, but I think we teased that for the season 4. But for the season 4 podcast, we will have looked into that, and
we'll do our homework. So don't worry. Next episode for the finale, you can just go in and we'll be blind. It's just gonna be like a credo at the beginning, like, all right, this is what happened with the masturbation thing.
we hire some voiceover talent to do a disclaimer before the episode.
I remember reading stories about Lena Dunham in real life, and just like a lot of them were kind of unflattering, but that was the one that like stuck out, and people were like, stuck out? That's not a fucking word. I'm an idiot. Stood out.
Oh, no, I've heard people that know her seem to think that she's super nice and everything like that. So like from the people I know that like had interactions with her,
I saw her on an episode of Billy on the Street, and she seemed like a real sweetie on that show.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll dive in. We'll have more info for the premiere of season 4. That's our first tease of an episode.
There we go. And so while this fight's happening and Rebecca's texting and driving, she slams into the back of a car.
Yeah, they are texting and driving to the point where no one is looking forward.
Yeah, no one's looking
at her, not looking forward. She's texting full on, like without everyone who drives and has a cell phone has probably texted and drove at some point. And you know the like, you text a word, look up. Like look up, and like there was no looking up. It was full, like, I'm going to read this whole article before I get.
Yeah, dude. I was like, don't you understand? Yeah. Text a word, look up. Text another word, look up.
But also don't text and drive.
Well, yeah, obviously, but if
if
you are doing it, there's
text and drive responsibly.
Dude, I got so upset when everything switched to touchscreen because I had a fucking Motorola Razr. I had that shit down, dude.
Yeah.
Because I had that in high school and I could just not look at all. And I would text it perfectly. I'd type it out perfectly. There'd be no errors. But like, even when I'm looking at the fucking touchscreen, my fingers are so big that like I get all kinds of typos.
Weird brag.
What kind of brag is that? That's not a brag. I have big fingers.
Oh, you suppose, right? For anyone that's like probably like what 20 or under who hasn't ever had to deal with the T9 and only knows like iPhones with the texting ones, if you look at the numbers, they have A, B, C, and there's 3 letters on each number. You would just hit that number as many times to go over to the letter corresponding.
Yeah. So if you wanted to type a C, you'd hit number one three times.
And you could just do that without ever looking at your phone.
Yeah, and they also, phones had this thing for blind people on it, like a little dot in the center. So you always knew where your thumb was when you were texting.
And also it had predictive text. So you could start a word and like you didn't have to do the whole word. It would complete it for you, kind of like what it does now. But like, so you could just type a whole text while you're like looking at something and then check your phone to make sure like it's exactly what you typed.
Yeah, that was the shit in high school. Because you weren't allowed to text in high school, obviously.
The movie The Departed wouldn't even be able to work without that feature because there's a lot of pocket texting. You could text someone while your hand was in your pocket. And it was fucking
rad.
Yeah. But we've skipped over something in this actual show that I'm sure the listeners are dying to hear.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
What did we skip over?
Joe's fashion corner, cherry dress.
The cherry dress, not the worst thing that Hannah has put on. I will say that fucking Rebecca's like beige fucking awful. That was awful. What Rebecca's wearing, she looks like a fucking like a doctor in like a depression era set like time period piece.
Yeah.
She's got like a beige wool sweater and a beige button down underneath of it and beige pants. I'm just like, what?
They're really trying to make her look so boring and dull.
Yeah.
But I brought up Hannah's dress because when she comes down, the way the aunts look at her in that dress are like,
the aunts had a little fashion corner moment.
Yeah, they're like, what is that? And where are you going?
Honestly, I didn't see anything wrong with that dress.
It was fine.
Hannah stepped it up this episode.
It was interesting to see that she packed that dress.
Yeah. Like you're going to go fucking see your dying grandma and you're like, I gotta bring a club outfit too, Who knows? Maybe I'll see a new beau. Yeah. It's like, why? You're dating Adam.
You know what? Always be prepared. Always be prepared for every situation.
That's true. I don't know about you, but whenever I go on a vacation, I always bring like 2 or 3 extra pairs of underwear because my mom instilled in me to do that because, quote, you might shit yourself.
All right.
And then you don't want to be out of underwear.
I always bring a tux with me wherever I go, just in case a formal event breaks out.
That'd be so fucking cumbersome.
You never know when you're going to get invited to a 1,000-plate dinner gala.
That'd be so funny if you actually did that. That'd be so fucking funny. I would love that.
Yeah. I'm always checking a bag.
It's like it's never happened once.
Yeah.
But you're like, you never know.
That one time to make it worth it.
Yeah, who knows? You might get into a high stakes game of poker.
Yeah.
Did James Bond your way through it?
You never know. So they get in a car accident in this show.
Yes. It's a nice little tangent about the Motorola Razr and shit back in the day.
This car accident is vicious. Like it's just a parked car in the street and they rear end it.
Yeah. Hard. How fast do you think they were going?
I don't know, but that car really crunched in at least 40.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do you think that the airbags went off? Because airbags go off after 30,
the airbags. The way that front hood of that car crumpled in, it was pretty. Like I didn't expect them to hit it as hard as they hit it when I saw that.
It looked
shot.
Pretty significant.
Yeah. So it's really nice that they weren't more damaged. It had me thinking about when Jessa was covering up that guy's eyes and they were driving on that street.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they managed to make it out of that. But this doctor decides that she just wants to text aggressively.
Dude, her
so
texting
forced.
while driving was such rookie bullshit.
Yeah. It was, that was like, whatever. But the thing that got me is later they're in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then Adam shows up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca's got a neck brace on. Hannah's a little busted up. She's got like stitches across the like top hairline part. So they run, like Adam runs in and he's like, what? Don't ever text me car accident. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
he runs in. He's like, "What the fuck? Is everything all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he looks at her stitches and he just screams in her face.
Yeah,
Like,
and
don't ever text me just car accident ever again.
Like robbery, shootout.
Yeah.
Like what? Like,
so how did he know where to go?
There's so many questions. How did he know where to go? How did he beat the aunts there who are upstairs in the hospital? Yeah. How did the aunts not get there before him?
Yeah.
Like, because at first I was like, oh, maybe they're in a different hospital in a different place. No, they're like, my mom's upstairs dying. And it was like, what? You guys didn't come downstairs to see your kids that got in a car accident? Adam managed to drive from New York on a motorcycle faster?
Yeah, he's using Desi's motorcycle because Hannah's like, how did you get here so fast? Like, I used Desi's motorcycle.
Like, how did you get here longer than it took my parents to come down the elevator?
I know.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway.
So he's like, I got a bunch of mother hens following me. It's like, how did he know? Did he go up and visit the grandma before?
Exactly. I was like, none of that made any sense to me. But yeah.
Yeah. So then the moms come and they hug. Mm-hmm. And this is where some real family drama starts going down. Mm-hmm. Which is, I feel like, very realistic.
Yeah.
Like when my grandma died, there was some family drama going on, mm-hmm. and it was like, it gets vicious when parents dying and like everyone's trying to decide like what's the best course of action. And Sissy brings up that the mom, Flo, if she goes into like a coma, she doesn't want to be put on life support or something. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want to have like things breathing for her. She just wants to basically die.
Yeah.
And then the other two sisters are like, well, who the fuck decided that? And blah, blah, blah. And this is where they all start fighting about Hannah's mom brings up, she's like, you're all just jealous of me because I have a marriage that worked out and all of yours failed and shit like that. It's like, is that really the time?
Yeah. When they bring up pulling the plug, they kind of cut to a shot of Adam, like watching it, intently. And I couldn't help but think about when he got in an argument with his sister about pulling the grandmother's plug.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh, that's going to really make him feel some way. But they never really go into it. But I was just remembering that was an issue for him. And now he's like seeing it face to face,
Yeah, so. And he's seeing it affect Hannah, which is the person that if she ever left him, he wouldn't know what a tree was. The world would be a blur. So they are like fighting. They're screaming at each other, so much so that a nurse has to come and try and break up the hubbub.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember exactly what the all of the things that they're fighting about is, except for like Hannah's mom being like, you're jealous. And then they're like, yeah, we're real jealous of you and your fucking puny ass husband. Which also, why isn't he there? That was weird to me.
He's super busy with his job. Isn't he retired? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing that I like.
Because
my dad would go with
it's the sisters. It's all about the sisters.
I guess that was just what was weird to me. I figured like my dad would go with my mom if there was something going on with her mom, like that.
Yeah. I don't know. It was interesting. They were like, Hannah has to get here, but yeah, whatever. The thing that was really interesting is when when Margot's ripping Hannah's dad. Yeah. Rebecca's face has like a smile and she's like enjoying it so much.
Rebecca's like, yeah, now it's all coming out.
Yeah.
Your dad's a fucking puny wimp.
Yeah, they really like. I still don't know a lot about the dad.
Well, didn't they kind of mentioned that he's like a simpleton, like really stupid. They said he's got the body of a gymnast and the mind of a retriever or something.
Yeah, something like that. But like, isn't he like a teacher or something? Isn't he?
I don't know.
A professor somewhere. Anyways, like,
He must have been doing something pretty successful because like they were able to support Hannah for like 4 years after college.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the downside is. Like, he's not in jail for insider trading and not whatever. You know what? It's really interesting that I just thought of.
What?
And this goes back to a past episode. Elijah likes to try to out people.
What do you mean?
So Elijah in the first season, when we first meet him, tries to tell Hannah that her dad's gay.
Yeah.
In the beach house episode, he tries to imply that Charlie's gay to Marnie.
Yeah. And he also outs himself of fucking Marnie. I mean, like, I fucked her. Like, he spread Marnie's business, too, about them having sex.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying out. I'm saying out, like, out of the closet.
Out
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Elijah's a fucking gossiper.
Yeah, because I'm just saying that's, like, the first, like, rip into, like, Hannah's dad that we got. Like, oh, maybe he's really closeted, and then other times, other than that, he hasn't been, like, super weird that we've seen. I mean, he's kind of quirky, but, like, not, yeah.
I think that he's just, like, kind of, he seems like an emotional guy, and he has a lot of love overflowing, and the mom is the more stern one of the two. Like, he's good cop, mom is bad cop.
He feels like a goofy sitcom dad in a show that's not really a sitcom.
Yeah.
Like he's like out of place in this world because he's not.
Yeah,
he's not.
But he seems to care a lot.
Yeah,
he loves his daughter a lot, and like he wants what's best for her. But he's kind of a pushover.
Yeah.
And the mom is the person that like needs to like be the disciplinarian for lack of a better term.
I really thought this episode we were going to find out how evil the mom is, and like she's not, but she does have a darker side, you know.
Yeah, the mom is. Yeah, we'll get into now because Hannah goes to wake the grandma up, who is asleep. She's like, "Grandma, grandma, grandma," and she's like, "Oh, what's up? Hey, what's up, Hannah?" And Hannah's like, "Nothing much. Hey, Adam is here. This is Adam." And the grandma's like, "I don't really want to meet new people right now. This is not the time.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like shit. I know I look like shit. And I want to be prepared for when, I'd rather meet him when I'm feeling better or whatever."
I respected the hell out of her not wanting to meet new people.
Yeah.
I was like, that is the right you reserve after the age of, I was going to say
your
age of 30,
deathbed, on your literal deathbed.
Deathbed.
Yeah, it's cute because like when my sister had a boyfriend and when I had a girlfriend and we introduced them to my grandma like made a big deal of like I want to like get dressed up and like look really good for them and be like, okay, this is like the person that's important to my grandson, so I'm gonna doll myself up and put my best, which I think is like really cute, and I could see that that's kind of a little bit of where Hannah's grandma is on this, but also
maybe
she's tired. She has a broken femur and pneumonia. It's not a great time to like meet. Like, hey, this is my boyfriend. What do you think? She's just gonna be like, dude, leave me alone.
Yeah.
So Adam is like, hey, nice to meet you. Or she's like, I don't really want to meet him. And then Hannah's like, well, he's here anyway. So. And he's like, hi, okay, I'll see myself out. It was nice to meet you. I'm glad that I got to meet you. And the grandma's like, okay, cool. It's very nice to meet you too. And then Hannah's like, he just came all the way here because he wanted to meet you or whatever. And then Adam, out of nowhere, just blurts, yeah, and we're getting married.
Yeah.
And the grandma's like, oh, that's nice.
I love that. I was like, oh, this is just like, she's like, okay, cool. Like, it wasn't
the grandma didn't give a fuck. She's like, cool. Okay.
And that's where I was like, oh, is this mom really just playing that game? You know, like, because the grandma's not like, I need this to happen before I go or anything.
Yeah, the grandma kind of just takes it like, all right, I got bigger shit going on right now.
Yeah.
And then Adam's like, yeah, we're going to get married in like a year.
Yeah.
And then the grandma's like, that's so nice. And then Hannah is like, isn't that exciting? And the grandma's like, let me give you some advice about marriage. Yeah. And you think that this is going to be like some kind of sweet moment. Mm-hmm. And the grandma goes, one day after you're married for a while, you're going to end up hating each other. You're going to hate him so much, and you're going to want to see bad things happen to him, and you're going to wish a vile death on him. But that blows over. Like, that's basically all of the advice. And I was like, cool.
That was, to me, the best, like, another one of those, like, subverting expectations. I was like, oh, this is where she's going to be, like, this mean, awful person, right?
Yeah.
And no, she says something that, while very aggressive and not always true, definitely didn't have the sting of her being, like, callous about it. It was just being like, it was the harshest way to be like, sometimes there'll be some rough times. Yeah. But it'll be fine. Like, that's...
Yeah. It's basically, she's saying, like, marriage takes a lot of work. There's going to be rough times, but if you really care about the person, you'll stick it through and it'll be good.
Yeah, and she says that in, like, the most damning way possible, which is great.
Yeah. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought it was great, too, yeah.
So then the mom comes in and Hannah's like, yeah, we just told grandma that we're getting married. And the mom is like, oh, that's so nice. Yeah, it's nice that she got to. And then Adam's like, yeah, it's happening in a year.
He's like, I'm sticking to it.
So they go outside and Adam's like, okay, well, I got to get back. I got rehearsal tomorrow. The mom was like, thanks so much for coming. I really appreciate you coming and doing that marriage thing. Mm-hmm. And Adam's like, absolutely. And then he kisses Hannah. And then they have like an awkward, like, I don't know what to do. Hug, kiss, handshake. And then so they kind of do like a mishmash of all three. Mm-hmm. And then Adam heads out. And then the mom turns to Hannah and says, Hannah's like, well, that was really nice that Adam came, right? He's such a good guy. And the mom's like, yeah, he's a really sweet guy. But let me give you a piece of advice. Keep the job, not the guy. And Hannah's like, what?
Yeah.
And then the mom like goes on this quiet kind of trashing rampage about Adam. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a weird guy. He's odd. He doesn't have a job. He never really knows what he's doing. He's awkward. And you can't socialize him like he's a stray dog. And you can't take care of him like you have been. And like, he's awkward in his own skin. And you really should think about that, because if you're actually going to stay committed to this guy, you're going to put yourself through hell just being with him because he's such a weirdo. Mm-hmm. And then Hannah's like, you know, he just did a really, really nice thing. He came up here to check on me. He went through with the lie that you wanted to tell my grandma, and you're being very unkind. And the mom is like, I said what I said.
Yeah. Did she say like people aren't always right or something?
No, that was the grandma later.
That's the grandma.
That's the grandma later.
Okay. Well, in my notes, I wrote down, why is the mom trashing? Why is she against Adam? Right. And then I was like, and then she lists some stuff, and I wrote, never mind. And then I thought about it, and then I realized what the real issue was. My real issue with it was the timing. The timing made no sense for her to be against Adam after what had just happened today.
Yeah, it's awful timing.
Yeah, you can think those things, but it was no reason to be like, you know what? I know I told you to tell him that you're getting married, but don't.
Yeah.
Like, after he just did the nicest thing that this...
Dude, there's so much awful shit going on at once during her choice to do this. Mm-hmm. The grandma's dying. Everyone's saying their last goodbyes to the grandma. Mm-hmm. She's fighting with all of her sisters. Hannah just got into a car accident, and Adam comes up like a superhero.
Yeah.
He takes somebody else's motorcycle.
He was a superhero. He beat them.
Yeah. He shows up out of nowhere and is like, oh my God. He goes through with a lie that he didn't want to do, that the mom insisted on. And then she's like, yeah, you know what? That guy's kind of a loser. It's like, Wait a month.
Yeah, like wait till like he actually has to like do the proposal. Like that's not the time for that seed to be planted.
It was so incredibly awful.
Yeah, and she says it's hard being married to an odd man. You know, referencing the dad being odd, which he's a little odd, but not to the point where like Adam level odd.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, Hannah's odd as shit too. Like,
oh yeah,
like you could tell him the same thing.
Yeah, dude, Hannah's a fucking weirdo. She barely ever has a job. She's been supported by her parents for forever.
Yeah, I don't care if she has a job or not. I'm just talking about like personality wise. Like you don't know what you're gonna get sometimes.
Yeah, exactly, dude. She fucked a teenager in a graveyard, just randomly.
Who hasn't though? That's why they're there. That's why graveyards sit around.
Like literally, Hannah had two or three episodes ago, her boss died, and she's like, "I feel nothing about death." Like, dude.
But like
Hannah has the fucking OCD, like clicking, talking, counting shit things. Like, if she's gonna go after Adam, like there are more than enough reasons to go after her own daughter.
Yeah, but I understood what she was saying about Adam. I understand wanting to protect your kid. Like I wouldn't want my daughter dating an Adam. Like say that. But I would probably not bring that up right there.
Yeah,
there were so many times that she could have brought this up.
The mom has valid concerns, but the time and place of this speech is god awful.
That's what was driving me crazy. I was like, something's not right, and it's definitely the timing.
Yeah, it was like the mom had like this crazy heel turn, and she's doing it all with a smile on her face that like would say like, "Hey, I really care about you, and I'm a sweet mom," but she's saying like this vile, awful shit.
And you know what I was thinking also? I was like, are they trying to plant seeds the last couple episodes for like a breakup to happen for the finale of this season?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I was like, these are like, they all feel like forced, you know?
Because Hannah is very susceptible to suggestion like that. She's
like,
going to be like overthinking this like crazy now.
Yeah, he didn't want to get married. He's on a Broadway play. My mom doesn't agree with him. Like, now you have, but the way the episode ends, I don't necessarily feel that's what's going to happen at the end of this season.
I hope not.
Because then it's like,
it seems like Adam's finally like semi-sane.
Yeah,
like for him, for Adam.
I don't want to watch them break up and get back together in the next season or so. Yeah,
I don't care what my mom says. I love you.
Unless the breakup is to help facilitate the Marnie Adam hookup. Then I get it.
You have to get one in every episode to remind the listeners of Vance's prediction that Marnie and Adam are going to hook up. So anyway. After this, everybody's asleep in the hospital like lobby, I guess, and Hannah wakes up, and they go into the grandma's room, and the grandma's like broken the fever. She's beating pneumonia. Like she's like, "I'm getting over this pneumonia," and the nurse is like, "This is awesome."
Yeah.
And then, then everybody's like super happy, and Hannah's like, "All right, well, I feel better about this. She's probably not going to die. I can go home. Like, I just said my last goodbyes. She actually could get better." And then the aunts are all like, "We should be closer. Like, why are we fighting all the time? Like, this is bullshit. We need to be a better family." So then Hannah takes a train back to New York City. And as soon as she arrives, she gets a phone call from Rebecca that the grandma died of a heart attack right after she left. And Hannah's like, "What? She's not dead. You're fucking with me. Like, she's doing better. She just beat pneumonia. She's eating an extra cheese sandwich or whatever." And Rebecca's like, "No, I'm not fucking with you. She's dead. You got to come back right now." Yeah. And then Hannah hangs up the phone. She's just like standing in the middle of a street like, "God damn it. This fucking sucks." And that's the episode.
Well, there's a couple things. The line that I had written down, "People aren't always right." Is that
right? I fucking forgot about that.
Is that the whole because there's a whole scene where she's talking to the grandma when she's doing better and right?
Yeah, like I guess right before Hannah leaves upstate New York, she's like, "I'm so glad that you got better, and I'm so glad that you're feeling better and you're gonna recover." And the grandma's like, "Well, people aren't always right." And Hannah's like, "You know what? You're right. People aren't always right." And I guess she took that to mean like her mom isn't going to be right about Adam.
Or she's not right because she's better. Like, I wasn't, like, I just wrote that line down. I didn't, like, take the time to think about fully what it was referencing to.
Yeah. Well, now that we're talking about, what do you think it's referencing?
People aren't always right. It has to be about Adam. Yeah.
I think that Hannah took it as like the mom isn't right about Adam.
Yeah.
But then also,
that's the only lingering thing for it to be. Like, we don't, who knows when we'll see these aunts again, or aunts, or however.
Yeah.
Or
even Hannah's mom.
Or the cousin. Like, the cousin we might never see again until she pops up and becomes a roommate or something.
Do you think that this series, not the season, the series, will end with Hannah getting married to Adam?
I don't know about married, but I think they'll be together in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, because, you know, this episode, when they were all happy and the grandma was doing well, I got this feeling like this is a weird way for a girls episode to end.
Yeah, I was like, when the grandma got better, I was like, oh, now Hannah's gonna like have to get married to Adam if she stays alive. That's what I thought was gonna be down the road, but then like that gets the rug gets pulled out from under you immediately.
And like, this is a bad feeling, but I felt so bad for Hannah having to turn back and get back on the train.
Yeah, that sucks.
Like, if anyone lived in New York, you know, it knows that the train station hustle and bustle, like.
Well, dude, this is what happened to me when my grandma died earlier this year. I was home for Christmas for a week, and then I left December 28th, and then my grandma went to the hospital New Year's Eve, and she died on New Year's Day. And so I had to come back around, get a flight, go from LA back to Maryland for another week. And I was like, oh my God. So as soon as Hannah was like, I have to go back, I was like, oof, I know this feeling all too well.
Wow. Yeah.
But anyway, final thoughts on this?
There's one thing.
Anything else?
There's one little moment that we miss. It's an Adam moment. After the aunts are talking, he says, I got to go to the bathroom. And he just walks into an isolation room.
Yeah.
Very fitting for the times.
Well, also, when the aunts are all fighting and the mom is like, I'm so sorry that you had to see that.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it's nothing. It's just like a regular Tuesday night at my parents' house.
Well, he says enchilada night at our family's house. Instead of like a taco night, I think they just changed the enchilada to be different. Yeah. Overall, it's a solid episode. It could have lingering effects, but it doesn't feel like it will.
Yeah, I don't think it will. I thought it was a good episode, though.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it has a lot of family stuff in it, but not. I mean, in other seasons or episodes, Hannah would have been just the worst. Like when she went home in the first season, I mean, she was the worst person.
I actually felt bad for Hannah during this episode. Yeah. Like it was an all Hannah episode, and I didn't mind it this one though. Yeah. Like usually when it's like one of the girls is separated and it's like it's basically only been like Hannah. Yeah. Well, they had that one Jessa one when they went to visit Jessa's family.
Yeah, the Jessa Hannah.
But Hannah was there. Yeah. Usually I hate those episodes, but this one I was like, this is a good episode.
Yeah. It's solid. Solid episode. Yeah. I do miss having the other girls around. I wanted to see the effects of the last episode carry over a little more, but we'll
do you think they do this to make people forget so that they can kind of retcon things?
I don't know. Like I started watching Ozark, and like they do stuff like that, and I know what's that? Stranger Things. Their second season, they had an episode that's just like the one before the last one, where you just shove in like a weird flashback, isolated event, and you're just like, no, I kind of want to follow the trajectory of the story.
Yeah, they used to do that. They used to do that in Daredevil too. Like you'd get this one character's backstory from like 20 years ago.
Yeah, and
they do that in anime a lot too.
Yeah, and it's like it's cool and it's like great. I got a little bit of backstory, but I could have probably done without that. Like I didn't gain enough that it makes what I see later pay off. If it's done right, you can do it. But I don't know. It's all a preference. I don't know. Yeah. This episode's fine, but I would have been okay if we were dealing with Marnie and the Ray fallout and anything. More Broadway stuff with Adam. Shoshana being Shoshana. Shoshana's dumb boyfriend.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for him to show back up. So, yeah.
Jess's relapse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, she just stole money from a job, didn't she?
Yeah, she robbed a place, did a bunch of cocaine.
That's my issue. Like, now you got to wait and see what happens with that. Now it's just going to get crammed into a finale.
I mean, I don't think anything's going to happen. They'll, like, briefly mention it. Like, Jessa should be going to jail or in jail.
Yeah.
She robbed. Like, it's so...
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Like, if they don't have cameras, the first person that they suspect is always the employee.
Why are they keeping their money where they kept it, though? It's a weird business.
Yeah,
Who
it was in
owns
like a
that business?
shoebox.
Who's running that business? If you hired Jessa, it's on you.
Yeah, they haven't been following
Yeah.
this whole series to know that you shouldn't hire. And like, they didn't hear Shoshana scream from across the street, "You have a criminal record."
Shouldn't be working with children.
But yeah, that wraps up episode 9 of season 3, Flow. And stay tuned for next week's episode 30 overall, episode 10 of this one. This is not the season finale, surprisingly. Oh, no. Yeah, we've got 2 more episodes in this season.
Oh, this is a 13 episode season?
It's a 12 episode.
12 episode season? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, next episode's episode 10. And it is titled Role Play. So we'll have to see what that's all about.
This kind of changes my opinion of, I thought we only had 1 more episode to go, and I thought we were going to cram everything in, but now, all right.
Yeah, I think season 3 and season 4 have 12 episodes.
When we started this podcast, you did not tell me that, Joe.
I quit. Find yourself another co-host, you piece of shit.
Those couple extra episodes are the sticking point. I want to redo my contract.
Any predictions for what role play could be?
I think it's going to have something to do with Adam and his play and Hannah getting jealous and trying to, fit into that world.
I agree. That was going to be my prediction. So, yeah, you'll have to wait until next week to hear all about it. Or, if you're binging these, wait until, you click next. All right, guys. See you later.